Hello and a very warm welcome to you from wherever you are around the world. Joining us for another edition of the MotoGP Fantasy Preview Live ahead of the Moto TT Asen at the Cathedral of Speed. The Asen circuit, steeped in history, being on the calendar since 1949, and it has been a mainstay ever since, apart from the outlier that was the 2020 season. But since then, it's been back on the calendar, and it's been a joy to behold ever since. And since it has been on the calendar, and we are celebrating 75 years of MotoGP this year, it's one of the absolute greats, and a race that we're all looking forward to ahead of the season. The original circuit, which was about 16.5 kilometers, no longer with us, but we still have the modern circuit to this day. And of course, heading into this weekend, after the 3-week break, we've got Jorge Martin that leads the MotoGP World Championship, 18 points ahead of Pecco Bagnaia. And of course, Pecco's new teammate for 2025, Marc Marquez, 35 points off the championship lead. If you've missed everything that has been MotoGP for the last couple of weeks while we were on a little bit of a break from Mugello, there's been so many changes, and make sure you stick with MotoGP.com and of course MotoGP on the social media channels to find out everything that's happened and the reactions from the team principals and of course the riders this weekend. Now, a rider that we have today is a home hero for the weekend and a rider that's currently sitting third in the Moto3 World Championship, 48 points off the championship leader, David Alonso. It is, of course, Colin, and he's told me this is okay to say, Collin Veijer. Colin, hello, and a very warm welcome to the MotoGP Fantasy Preview Live. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Are you looking forward? I assume you are, but are you looking forward to your home Grand Prix this weekend?
Yeah, sure, I do, because there's a lot of people getting here for seeing the Dutch people. So yeah, I think it's exciting.
How are you feeling going into this weekend? Is there a lot of pressure on you, or is it the same as a normal weekend, or do you just have a tiny little bit more because it is your home Grand Prix this weekend?
Well, to be fair, it's for me, it's just still a normal weekend. I try to treat it the same as any other one. The only difference is the media attention is a bit more than normal, and also the support is big. So, yeah, I still try to treat it as normal as possible.
Talking of treating it as normal as possible, how do you prepare for a Grand Prix weekend?
Well, for me, it's more or less just training and just doing my things. Not like intensive training, like very push trainings, but just yeah, getting into the flow and yeah, get the feeling a bit.
Now, Asen has been an absolute mainstay, a gem on the MotoGP calendar since 1949. If it wasn't your home GP, what would make Asen so special to you from a rider's point of view?
Well, I think it's an historical track. It's been on the calendar for many years, so I think this is especially one of the main things that is coming into my head now. Yeah, and I think the layout is beautiful. It's flat completely, so yeah, there are no height difference and everything in here. But yeah, I think mainly it's the historical track.
And going into this weekend, I believe you've finished on the podium 3 out of the last 4 races or so. How are you feeling going into the weekend in terms of challenging for the race win? Of course, David Alonso he's been very tough to beat this year, but do you think you can get the better of him this weekend?
In Mugello, we got very close on him. I think with one more lap, I could challenge him a bit more. But no, I think we're very competitive, and I try to look for this weekend to do the same again, to be very competitive all the weekend. For sure, Alonso will be the same, but I think also Holgado and Ortola will be there. So I will not be the only one good prepared, but let's see if I can do my best to win my home GP.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to seeing the Moto3 in action because it is obviously one of the best racing in the entire world, and obviously around Asen it's one of the most spectacular things you will ever see. Before we get into the racing this weekend, we do have the small matter of choosing our MotoGP fantasy team. There's been a lot of change in the rider market for next year, but let's see how you are choosing the team for this weekend. So, I believe you've not quite played the MotoGP Fantasy in a while, but if you have in the past, or if you're just joining us at home as well for the first ever time, what we can do is make 2 changes for the weekend. So that could be either 2 riders, or a rider and a constructor, or a rider and a team, or the constructor and the team as well. So, Colin, we have 400,000 remaining salary. Our team value is 16.2 million. So from the current team that we have so far, is there anyone that you would like to change? Just remember, we've got to bring in or to weigh up the value of different riders. So Mark, for example, is 3.8, and the most expensive rider so far is Jorge Martin, 4.6 million. So if you want to put him in the team, it might be a bit of reshuffling to do.
Well, really, I think Vinales. I think change Vinales.
Take Vinales out. Yep, so that gives us a remaining salary of 3.10 million.
And also, I think, also Aleix.
Also Aleix. So both of the Aprilia riders out. That leaves us with 5.5 million remaining. Now, if we scroll down, we can decide who we like. I would say I think Jorge Martin and Pecco Bagnaia might be a little bit difficult to put in the team, because if we put them in the team, it won't leave us with any remaining salary to put anyone else in. But I think the rest is fair game, to be honest. So is there anyone there, Colin, that is taking your fancy?
Marco Bezzecchi, I think, this weekend.
Marco Bezzecchi, extremely fast around here. He was on the podium in the Grand Prix the last 2 seasons and also won the sprint. So Marco in the team, that leaves us with 3.2 million remaining. So we actually have quite a good salary to pick somebody else.
How much? 3.8.
3.8. We can get Brad. We can get Alex. Any of the riders further down. Jack.
I think Jack. Let's take Jack.
Putting Jack in from trade. Now, what we can do, Colin, is we can switch the silver and the gold riders around if you prefer. If you maybe want to move Pedro into the gold team, or maybe move Mark into silver. How are you feeling?
No, I think it's alright like this. I think Mark is very competitive around here, same like Marco, and I think Pedro will surprise us again this weekend.
Yeah, so going for a silver team, RC16s. Are you believing that the RC16s will perform extremely well around here? They did nearly have a podium in the hands of Brad Binder in both the sprint and the Grand Prix last year. Just missed out, unfortunately, by running on the green in the last lap. But are you expecting more from them this weekend?
Yeah, I think Pedro will surprise for sure. He is always fast, so there won't be any discussion about that one, I think. And I think Jack will make a step this weekend. I hope for him, he will be there this weekend for the first time again on the podium.
Yeah, Jack's had an unfortunate season, hasn't he? It's been very difficult, but now that he's looking for a place on the grid for next year, that could really bring out the best in Jack. Fingers crossed for the Australian rider. So, Colin, just before we finish off on this, are you happy with your team? We do have 2 points.
Yeah.
Very happy. Well, I must admit it's a very bold choice you've gone for this one, but it's MotoGP. Anything can happen, especially in 2024. So, just to recap, Colin has gone for his gold team, Marc Marquez and Marco Bezzecchi. Silver riders, Pedro Acosta, who's still chasing that first victory in MotoGP and to become the youngest MotoGP race winner, taking that from Marc Marquez, and Jack Miller in the silver. And constructor is Aprilia, and team is Red Bull KTM. Factory team. Now, Colin, going into this weekend, we've already just touched on it briefly that you're in the midst of a championship battle. We've had a couple of weekends off. We've got 2 weekends in a row then the summer break. How important is it to gather momentum at this part of the season, even with the break coming for the summer?
Well, I think if you have a good feeling, I got the podium in Mugello, so I think you go with a good feeling into the break. I think that for sure helps a lot to keep the momentum up and keep training with the feeling of a podium. But even if it was a bad result, you still keep training and stuff like this to get into the flow again and get into the good feeling. And yeah, really now from Asen to Sachsenring, you can keep the momentum again and yeah, if you try to do Sachsenring good and go into a good feeling again, and then go into the summer break, I think we'll be the same, like I said.
We see in practice a lot that you are a rider that likes to spend a lot of time by themselves doing their laps. Is this something that you've consciously done throughout time, or is it something that the team has pushed you to start doing this year too?
Well, I did it already on my own in the junior classes. And yeah, I think that's the best way for me to get into the feeling and get the speed on my own. And yeah, the positions in the practices for me doesn't matter too much. As long as it's in top 14, I'm happy. But yeah, just to get the own speed is better and more important, I think, for even in the future. So yeah, for me, it's a very good feeling if I'm riding alone and seeing that I'm fast. That gives a very good feeling.
Is that something that would be best transferable if you move into Moto 2 in the future? And also, coming towards the end of a race, we saw in Mugello, for example, you were extremely fast when you broke away from the group. Is that some riding alone by yourself? Is that something that helps towards that?
Yes, for sure, because we used also the U style quite a lot. So yeah, you get the feeling of being an end of a race and still try to be competitive. And if you do it alone, you feel more what you are doing. And in my opinion, if you're right behind someone, you're more fixating on the one in front of you than you are thinking about your own actions. So yeah, I think it's very important be riding alone. For sure, help slipstream will help sometimes for get set a good lap time, but I think it's the most important to be alone.
Yeah, exactly. And I did mention Moto 2 there. I think the question on many of the Dutch fans' lips now is Moto 2 option for next year?
Yeah, we have different options. Maybe I stay in Moto 3, maybe go Moto 2. I have my options and let's see what it will bring. But I focus on this season and yeah, let's see what we can achieve this season.
I ask you that question because, as we know, the rider market is in absolute chaos at the moment, so it's everyone's moving about. Final couple of questions. The last one I want to ask you about yourself before we move on to predictions is: if you do win on Sunday, do you have any special celebrations planned?
Well, I will go to turn between turn 8 and 9 will be everyone from my town and all my friends and stuff will be there. So yeah, there will be some sort of party around there, I think.
I'm sure there will be a lot of bleary-eyed people throughout the weekend from that section. How many friends and family or from your hometown do you expect coming this weekend?
Um, well, I just listened that the 220 people from my town, just from my town, are coming over. So yeah, I think it will be even more. I just listened that number, but yeah, I think there will be a lot of people.
Well, no pressure at all then, Colin, and I'm sure they will be putting no pressure on you at all, just to go out and do the best that you absolutely can do. Colin, before we let you go, we always do at the end of the show. We want to ask you for your predictions for the MotoGP Sprint and, of course, the MotoGP Grand Prix on Sunday. So the top three from each of the sprint and the race. So if we
The
start
full
off with the
top
sprint,
three.
the full top three.
Um, Top three. I think on the Saturday will be Martin, P1, Becco P2, and I would say Marquez P3.
Very good choice. Very good choice. Top three in the championship as well. So good ones to go for.
Yes. So, and I think on the main race, I will go for P1 Marco. Um, Second will be uh, yeah, difficult because a lot of people are fast around here. To be fair, I think Becco will be P2, and yeah, yeah. Let's hope Jack will be on the podium. That's just I hope for him. So I say P3 for Jack.
Yeah, it'd be good to see Jack on the podium. Is Jack a close friend of yours?
Well, I know his helper a lot, so yeah, and I know Jack a little bit, but I hope he will be back on the podium.
Yeah, it'd be good to see Jack on the podium after the difficult start to the season. Colin, once again, thank you so much for joining us on the MotoGP Fancy Preview. All the best from us here at MotoGP in Barcelona to you for the weekend, and well, go out there and enjoy the weekend.
Thanks a lot.
Well, there we go. Collin Veijer has chosen the MotoGP fantasy team for the weekend. Marc Marquez and Marco Bezzecchi, who he has predicted to win the Grand Prix on Sunday, has finished second in the last two Grand Prix in both of his visits. Also won the sprint last year, so Marco, we do know, goes very well around this circuit. Has struggled on the GP23 so far this season, apart from his podium back in Jerez. Also Pedro Acosta in the silver team. Pedro and Marc have been in the team constantly throughout the season. And Pedro Acosta is still chasing that first win. And this weekend or next weekend, he still has 2 opportunities to go to become the youngest MotoGP winner. And of course, Jack Miller, who we know will not be part of the Pura Mobility Group going forward in 2025. He is still out to grab himself a seat for next year. So expect good things from Jack Miller this weekend. Now, if you've just joined us for the first time in MotoGP Fantasy and you're wondering how you can play, and what prizes you might get, well, we have some fantastic options for you. Just remember, you can still sign up and win weekly prizes. And for competition winners of the weekly prizes, you will win 2 tickets for any Grand Prix of your choosing. So make sure you get yourself signed up. Make sure you get your team ready before qualifying does start on Saturday morning. If you put your team in or try and sign up after qualifying, it will not let you in. You'll have to do it for the next Grand Prix in Germany. So this is a great offer for you. And, well, if you take Colin's advice, then I think you might be on to an absolute winner so far this weekend. And if you've been joining us for the entire season, just remember you are still in the hunt to win prizes for the top 3. You can win a replica helmet signed by Pecco Bagnaia if you take the top prize this season. And if you're second on the podium, you'll win a PlayStation 5 and, of course, the brand new MotoGP 24 video game. And for third place, I've seen a lot of people in the office wear one of these watches, and I'm a little jealous. You'll pick up a Tissot T-Race MotoGP limited edition watch. Make sure you get signed up to MotoGP Fantasy. And, of course, stay tuned for everything MotoGP this weekend. Remember, we've had a lot of rider changes since the last round in Mugello. Marc Marquez to the factory Ducati next year. Jorge Martin to Aprilia alongside Marco Bezzecchi as well. Just some of the few changes. We've also got Enea Bastianini and Maverick Vinales to Tech 3 next year, and Pedro Acosta up to the Red Bull factory KTM team. It's going to be all talk this weekend about the rider market before we go racing. And of course, we've got Simon Martyr of 35 points covering the top 3 in the MotoGP Championship. Thank you once again for joining us for our MotoGP Fantasy Preview. We will be back the same time next weekend ahead of the German Grand Prix. All I've got left to say is enjoy the rest of the weekend.